I'm Lawrence Carpenter, owner of Super Clean Professional Janitorial Services and ZBS Trucking. I grew up in one of the worst parts of Durham. My mother was a heroin addict for predominantly my whole childhood. My grandmother had to raise me. And at the time my grandmother was raising me, she was older. She just couldn't keep up with me. I was a young man that thought I knew everything at that time. So unfortunately, I ended up being out in the streets hanging with the older guys. By the age of 11 years old, I was selling drugs. By the age of 17, I'm incarcerated. We were poor. Yeah, we were poor. I was trying to think of like a different version of poor, but we were just poor. And and it wasn't like a lot of opportunity there. It wasn't a lot of examples of people that you can look at that was successful. The streets was just appealing. I think one of the worst things that happened was during the process of selling drugs, I found out a way that I can make my own money without having to ask someone for anything. And I always tell people all the time, it helped me in one way and it ruined me in another. And I always say the difference between my first incarceration and my second incarceration was my first incarceration, I was young. I really hadn't seen a lot of life. I really hadn't traveled. I really had no responsibilities like a family and things like that. And to me, it was kind of like camp, like going off the camp. And, I'm in prison doing the same thing I'm doing in the street. I'm loan shark and I'm fighting. I'm doing all the crazy stuff I was doing in the street. And now you let me out 6 years later with no reform and also with no hope. My outlook on life was so different from my first incarceration. Because now, I travel, I done had cars, I got a place to live, I done kind of had a taste of like how life could be, and I did 11 months that time, and that 11 months was way worse than the 6 years. So when I came home, I thought of everything I could get into. Like I was thinking about, I can get a daycare. I lived in the bond of daycare. I lived in all this stuff, that I can get into, and I felt like God was telling me to do a janitorial service. And I can remember, I was like, nah, I'm not cleaning no toilets. I can't put my hands in my, I like getting my nails done, So I was like, no. And I remember I got out there October. I remember December came around, it was Christmas time. All right, I'm spending a lot of money, but I'm not making money. I started feeling that urge like, okay, my money getting a little low. The only thing I always knew to this point was selling dope. I don't want to be back there. So after Christmas, January, when the government offices opened back up, I went in again. I said, okay, I'm gonna go do a janitorial service. And that January I went in, got my City of Durham license, got the insurances and things I know, and then I started working from there. And my mentality always have been, I shouldn't have to live in poverty for the rest of my life because I made a mistake. By the time I got my first City of Durham contract, I was broke. And I think it was intentionally done that way so I would never have to worry about it being on my back that I started a business with dope money. I care about what my daughters think about me. Fatherhood, it changed me in so many different ways. My whole effort in life has been based off of my kids. My oldest daughter, that was one of the reasons why when I came home and I struggled with the business, and I thought about selling dope again, and I had an opportunity to sell dope again, and I said no. Because I was like, I can't do this to them. I promised them this was it. The criminal justice system is totally broken. Sometimes you can have some of the people that think they're the most intelligent people in the world, and they can be some of the dumbest people in the world, right? Like racism. Racism is some of the dumbest stuff in the world, right? So with the criminal justice system, it's almost parallel. You have your judges, you have district attorneys, you have all these pictures that's painted about the person that's before them. They'll deal with that, but they won't deal with the economic state. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna always have crime. I don't care what color you are. If people starving, I look at a situation like this. A lot of people went to prison and went to jail or committed whatever crime they had based off of money. So why is a person coming home, you got them on probation, you got to pay all these fines back? You're telling him he got to have a job within a certain amount of time, but he got a criminal record. You understand? You got all these stipulations in place for this person, and the system counting against them. Not saying that the people don't need stipulations, not saying people don't need formality, not saying people don't need structure, not saying any of those things. What I'm saying is, you got to counterbalance whatever you request. And that's one of the great things is like setting the guys on the right path. You know, that's a lot of time people fail because they have no knowledge of how to do something. So if you have someone there in place, especially some of us who kind of like we went through the prison system, came home. You know, when you got those type of examples and you got people that can say, yeah, try it this way, no, try it that way, it really helped people. No, most definitely it's our duty, the ones who were formerly incarcerated, to come back and share our stories, because at the end of the day, the best way to help people is not telling them your successes. I feel like the best way to help people is telling them your failures. Because when you tell them your failures, then they bring hope. You know, if I failed at the same thing you failed at, but was able to get up, brush myself off, and continue moving on, 9 times out of 10, you feel like, okay, I can grab that same rope you grabbed to pull myself up. It's a 3-point thing that I always tell people, the guys that's incarcerated now. First, I tell them, be willing to change. Be willing to do things different. Be willing to try new things. Second thing I always say, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Not saying that you can't achieve anything, but realize there's steps to everything. You know, I look at myself. I started out cleaning residential, that led me to commercial. Commercial led me to being able to do ZBS. ZBS lead to real estate. But I couldn't do real estate without the cleaning, but I had to take my necessary steps. I stayed in my lane. Third thing, be ready for the fight, because it's tough for people out here with degrees and all that to survive out here. I tell guys all the time, you fought for stuff that was wrong. You did. That's why you're here. You fought for the block. You know, you fought for the car. You fought for the jury. You fought for all that stuff right there. The same way you fought for that, put that same energy in the fight for what's right. I want my legacy to be, he was a humble guy who cared about people, who just only wanted the best for himself and his family, and was willing to go the extra mile if he was willing to go the extra mile for himself. That's what I wanted to be.